Every year, thousands of competitive gamers attend tournaments, each tournament coming with the promise of prize money, glory, and recognition for the select few who can prove their skill. And each attending player has likely invested hundreds, if not thousands of hours into the game and is now putting their full emotional weight on the line. And in the back of their head is that driving hope and belief that maybe, just maybe, they might be the one to make it to the top. But of course, only a select few really do make it to the top, and the majority fall short. Meaning that most players are left with broken dreams, questioning if they really have what it takes to play like the masters. And whether you attend local tournaments or not, I'm sure you can still relate to the experience of putting yourself on the line to win an important match or achieve a certain rank, only to fall short of your goal and then be left questioning your abilities. Do you really have what it takes to make your dreams a reality? Do you have the potential to become a great player? Well, for most people, the answer is yes. You likely do have the potential to rise up to your personal goals and become a much better player. But the vast majority of ambitious players like yourself make terrible mistakes in their approach to skill development, which causes them to improve at a slower rate, hit skill plateaus, and eventually lose motivation. And chances are this approach is something that has made its way into the back of your mind and held you back from improving to your full ability. But fortunately, by exposing this hidden mindset and adopting a more effective approach, you could begin to develop your skills much faster and much farther than you thought you could. So in this video, we'll look into the different approaches towards learning that often define our success or failure. We'll look at the inspiring research led by developmental psychologists, and we'll define a new mindset that can help you to improve yourself much easier and help you to become a great player. When it comes to learning and developing your skills, things like repetition and consistency are obviously important. What's also important, but usually overlooked, is your mindset. And developmental psychologists are well aware of this, and thus they've done extensive research on the effects of a student's approach towards their learning ability, and how different approaches lead to drastically different results. Carol Dweck, a leading researcher in the field of developmental psychology, defines two approaches towards learning as either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. With a fixed mindset, you basically have the idea that you're either a genius or you're not, and that skill level is fixed. And it's that mindset that causes us to look at top players like they have some supernatural talent that we just weren't born with. And when we have a fixed mindset, we don't want to challenge ourselves because we don't want to expose ourselves as either good or bad. Because if you're born a certain way and it's fixed, you don't ever want to fail. You don't ever want to come up short because that's just a sign that you don't have what it takes. And with a fixed mindset, we begin to see effort as a bad thing, because the attitude of a fixed mindset is that if you're good at something, you don't need to work hard at it. And if you're putting in a lot of effort, then chances are you're just compensating for how bad you naturally are. And of course, that would make you a tryhard. Now, the growth mindset approaches it completely differently. The growth mindset embraces the process of incremental development. Those with a growth mindset realize their shortcomings, but understand that they can improve themselves through persistent practice. With a growth mindset, we embrace challenge, we embrace failure, and we see greatness as something we make, not something we're born with. To highlight how these mindsets affect our learning ability, Carol Dweck and Dr. Lisa Blackwell conducted a study in which they tracked several hundred students with both mindsets over the course of 2 years. And results show that students with a growth mindset were able to increase their grades over time, while those with a fixed mindset did not. And the difference is quite noticeable. And what studies like this highlights is that a simple change in our approach to learning can lead to very different behaviors and results. And by having a growth mindset, we can make progress much faster and bring our game to new levels. But how exactly does this mindset do that? Well, as I mentioned before, those with a fixed mindset perceive effort as a sign of weakness and are prone to avoiding challenge. And as a result, they're likely to avoid opportunities for growth. While those with a growth mindset are subconsciously less scared of challenge and less scared of failure, and they're intrinsically motivated to apply more effort. But beyond these behavioral differences, it turns out that this mindset actually causes physiological changes in the brain. Brain scans show that for people with a fixed mindset, the brain becomes most active when receiving information about how they performed and how they'll be judged for it. But for people with a growth mindset, the brain becomes most active when receiving information about what they could do better next time, allowing them to process new lessons and learn from it. Now, the unfortunate part is that all of us have a certain level of fixed mindset programmed into us subconsciously. And it often begins when we're young, perhaps when we begin school or start playing sports. If we say excel in math class, we might be told that we're simply just good at math, we're naturals. And then if we're not so great at basketball, we might be told that it's just not our thing. And this kind of feedback tells us that success and failure are linked to ingrained ability, and for whatever reason, we're just born good at some things and born bad at others. And this mindset continues to arise in gaming environments when players are called godlike as though they're born destined to be a good player, or some players underperform and then they're told that they're just bad players as though they're genetically programmed to have bad in-game accuracy. And so it's often our environment that programs a certain level of fixed mindset into us, which causes us to progress slower without even being aware of it. But it is critical to realize that we can evolve in our approach towards learning. In fact, studies show that in just minutes, we can be conditioned into having an improved learning approach for any given situation. In one study, students were given different instructions about what the aim of their task was. Some were told that solving certain problems would help them with their schoolwork in the future, allowing them to take on a mastery-oriented approach. Others were told that they would be judged based on the results, thus putting immediate pressure to perform. And as you might expect, those who were temporarily mastery-oriented did much better on these tests. So this highlights that the key to pursuing excellence is to embrace a natural long-term learning process and condition the learning mindset into every area of your practice. Because with this mindset, painful losses begin to become more valuable than short-term victories. And with every mistake or major loss comes new wisdom that brings you closer to mastery. And of course, the real challenge of this is to hold on to this long-term mastery-oriented perspective, especially when you're under pressure. And for this, we need to begin to make growth mindset a habit. So start making this a conscious effort. Start making it a habit. Listen for that fixed mindset voice and notice when it comes up. If you start looking at those with higher levels of skill and you begin thinking, wow, I'm not nearly that good, add the word yet, as in, I'm not that good yet. And when you feel performance pressure bubbling up, dismiss it by reminding yourself that you don't need to perform and achieve some immediate results. You need to simply learn from this experience and make progress towards your bigger goal, your goal of mastery. Most players are held back by a fixed mindset, an approach to learning that has been socially programmed into their subconscious and now holds them back from reaching their best selves. And as a result, these players slip into the fear of challenge and the frustrations of defeat. Their fixed mindset slowly drains their motivation until they decide they just aren't good enough. But as you now know, there is a much greater approach. one that inspires us to embrace challenge, process new lessons from our results, and apply our full effort towards long-term improvement. And with this growth-oriented mindset, we can not only avoid the pitfalls on the road to mastery, but we can progress down this road much faster and much farther. And as a result, we can achieve our full potential. Hey there, eAthletes. Thank you so much for watching. This video is brought to you by our very own esports supplement, eAdvantage. Now, the inspiration behind eAdvantage is to help competitive gamers like yourself to enter a state of optimal performance, a state where you can play at your best and develop your skills more effectively. And it does this by combining 6 different ingredients that work together to help enhance brain function and memory while helping to reduce fatigue and boost alertness. And since eAdvantage is actually designed for performance and also designed to be healthy, it doesn't contain any of the sugar or sweeteners that you find in energy drinks. Instead, it contains only the necessary ingredients, which are all packed into a small capsule. So, if you're the type of gamer who's serious about improving and you care about your health and desire to reach an optimal state of performance, then check out eAdvantage for yourself. And when you're ready to try it out for yourself, you can get 6.5% off your first order when you use the code eAthlete1. And I'll leave this code in the description down below, as well as a link to the website. And of course, as always, I hope you guys loved this video. I hope you got a ton of value from it, and I'll see you all in the next video.